Hello, this is E Squared Productions Off the Cuff with T and Me. I'm T, that's me, also known as Carol. Today, we're going to talk about image.
Image.
You know, that image thing. So I was reminded recently, this song came on the radio and here I am belting it out. I know every word to all of the song, and I'm taken right back to grade 8. Right back to grade 8 in North Delta at the high school with my pink ghetto blaster and blasting this music with my
With
best
me.
friend here. And how we were trying to act cool because we
Oh
saw
my
all
God.
these other people acting cool and we wanted to be and emulate this cool. By the way, we were not cool. We
Still
were,
not cool.
still not cool, still not cool. But at the time, really believing that that was the thing to get to, this place to get to. If I could just be cool, which was a destination, then I could have some worth, and then I could feel good about myself because I was
And people would like me.
exactly super uncomfortable in my skin, didn't
Yeah.
really like myself, didn't know if I was coming or going half the time. And now what I know is that everybody was probably feeling very similarly in their own right. But at the time, I felt like I was the only one that just didn't fit in. And I was the only one that was, a geek and a nerd and an outsider, and that I didn't feel comfortable. So, what was your experience of that?
Oh my gosh, at that age, I remember not wanting to be seen. Like
Mhm.
I was so afraid of being seen. And like you guys can't see me in this little square, but I'm over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
I was not unseeable. And I did a lot of things. I was involved in a lot of things. And for example, in grade 8, I got invited to play club volleyball. And I was playing club volleyball with a group of women who were grade 8 all the way through to grade 12. And then I got to participate in the winter games. And my club team had this one girl on it who was just like the Farrah Fawcett. She was just absolutely amazing. What I learned about myself was that I felt so insecure about who I was, but what I knew is that she attracted the men. So I
Mm.
made friends with her and we stuck together when we were up away doing our volleyball. But I had this image of myself that I was trying to project.
Mhm.
Not that wasn't me at all. It wasn't me. Gross. I that that junior high version of me. Oh my gosh, T, I never want to go back to that place. Holy cow, the
And
things.
yet that song took me right back to that moment, right? Like I was right there. I was physically and emotionally right there. And how much I hated myself, the self-loathing that went on, and the critical voice that I had about not being good enough. And again, coming back to the idea that we all have a version of that, right? So I don't think I'm alone in that now, but at the time, feeling extremely lonely, feeling extremely exposed, and really not being accepted and feeling like I belonged anywhere. And I think that as human beings, we have a strong desire to, we're tribal people, right? To belonging is a fairly important component of being a human being. Yet I did never feel like I fit in, and I didn't have the luxury of playing the sports and stuff like that. I was the choir and drama geek. We were hanging up on the stage, but at least there I felt somewhat okay in my skin, even though I didn't fully engage in the idea that I had something to contribute that meant anything. It was always everyone else had these things and I wanted more of that. So I wanted to associate myself with that. Image going into adulthood became, everybody else is drinking, okay, I'm going to drink. Everybody else is doing this, okay, I'm going to do that, right? So it was always a derivative of watching what everybody else was doing and then pretending to be that, even though there's an intuitive sense inside that was like, this is not you. Why are you doing this? What do you want?
Mm,
And then ignoring that small still voice because I was like, you don't know anything. These people are
mm.
cool. Here's the measurement, and you don't measure up. And not measuring up, was hard.
Yeah. Yeah, pretending to be somebody that I am not. Um, I think there's a lot of that goes on. How are you today? Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah,
How often do we actually tell people how we really are?
I do. The grocery store clerk says, how are you? I'm like, well, today's not a very good day. And they go, oh, That's not the response you're supposed to say. You're just supposed to say you're fine, we're okay, right? Like we don't, what do you mean we're interacting? People
Going
freak
back to
out.
Barbie, when she said death, I mean, that's the reaction, is that I spent a lot of my life doing those things, and my folks, my mom specifically, she's, oh, you can't do that. Don't embarrass me. Don't shame me.
Yeah.
That's not, you can't be like that. But I'm like, but that's me. But that's how I show up. But that was never okay. So I learned how to shut these pieces of me off because they weren't acceptable by my mom. But I never understood this.
Right.
Like I never understood. There was never a conversation or dialogue that took place to help me understand why that was the way. It was just like, nope, done.
It's the way it is. Yeah, those rules and regulations, sometimes implied, sometimes overt, like you said, right? And living within the confines of that and really not exploring what it is that I think or what it is that I feel, always, counteracting that with, well, how should I feel? Or do I have worth here? And if someone could see my worth, then I could dial into being a part of. But it was always like I owed something in order to be a part of, right? Like it was not just okay to be there. It was like I'm indebted to this situation, that community, whatever that thing is, in order to belong. And I'm now coming to realize just how much image has created this false experience, right? Because it's not like this whole idea of I'm fine, everything's wonderful. I'm like, BS. I don't believe you. I feel something different. The words that you're saying and the feeling that I'm getting are out of alignment. I don't think that that's accurate and true. And how many times do we deny how we're actually feeling? Like in my household, couldn't feel angry, couldn't feel anything but happy, right? Like happy was the deal. You had to be happy. And I'm like, but I'm not always happy. And nor are you, right? My parents quite often were feeling how they were feeling, but it wasn't appropriate for me to do so. So I learned how to cut that stuff off and not allow it to happen. But in doing that, it trapped some of those feelings. And then that became this really vicious cycle. So, I get that there is a desired need, especially in business, maybe for image based, like you have to show up this way. But I have a tendency to buck the system and go, but why?
Yes, and I just did that last week. I when I started working for the company that I'm currently working with, I've been here almost 3 years now. It was right in COVID, and so everybody kind of worked remotely. So I've been working remotely, and everybody that I've been getting to know in our business relationships has been just like this on a computer screen.
Yeah.
And so this was my first opportunity to go and meet people from a couple of the big players here where we live, and so it was so bizarre. It was like I got out of the truck and we were the first ones there, my one of my teammates and myself. And we got out, and when I went to say hello to the first person, the normal thing we do in business is to go in and shake a hand. Well, I was going to do that, but my whole body went right into this person, and I'm like, I guess we're hugging. And I like put my arm around this person, and it was welcomed. It was with an open heart that this was received. And then I went to like shake the next person's hand, and they're like, oh, let's hug it out. So, and then I hugged the third person, and then I went back to somebody else who I hugged all these people. And this one person that, not that we had a tumultuous relationship, but in business, I have to sometimes push back and sometimes they have to push back. And so it's not that it's been an unfriendly, it's just been, we don't know each other very well. In that moment, he looked at me and looked right into my eyes. I swear he was welling up, and he just said, I see you. I know that you are a happy and good person because of this. Like it was a humongous deal to actually just break down all of that. And I stood back and I'm like, I know this is how we normally do like business meetings, but I'm a hugger. And I found myself not even trying to justify what I had done, and it felt perfect.
Yeah. Yay. And how often do we then become apologetic for doing it out of the norm, right?
Yes.
And I want to break all those boundaries. So congratulations on breaking down some barriers. I think to myself, even like, at the Comedy Stand when I was sitting there waving at people and how weird that was, but there was a response. So I'm thinking, these people will take that hug with them.
Yes.
That stuff affects other things,
it's the
right?
ripple.
The ripple effect. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's happening. So it's like there's an ignition of joy,
Yeah.
right, that happens. That joy will then become something that they take into, the store experience that they have, or the table, at the dinner table experience that they have. Like, it will continue on to give the gift of joy because it was joyful to begin with, and it was intentional, but unintentional in the same respect, right? So you didn't go in going, I'm gonna hug all these people.
No. But I thought about that after, and it's like the ripple in the pond. You throw that stone and you can't help it. I just know that, yeah, the rest of their day, then the rest of our relationship and how we work together now is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Like, it already felt so different. It just in that instant changed everything. And I wasn't faking anything. I just showed up. Like,
We'll figure.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so freeing.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. So when I think about that grade 8 girl who was
Yeah.
6'3" and 100
Yeah.
pounds soaking friggin' wet, with I had like a bowl cut with
Yeah.
a perm, I was a lanky, uncoordinated girl who looked like a guy.
Mhm.
And I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. And to go, 40 years later almost, and just embrace who I am and be it unapologetically
I'm
me.
I'm all for the genuine, right? I'm all for the genuine.
Yeah.
Show up as you are, come as you are. If you're not okay, say you're not okay.
Yeah.
Like, be able to say and speak to what's actually going on instead of this illusion. I'm fine. Everything's wonderful. It seems so mechanical to me, and I think to myself, the way that things have been are currently shifting, regardless of anyone's desired need for it to shift. We're in the middle of a fairly big transitional shift, and I think to myself, what's my level of responsibility to bring to this, right?
Mm.
So if it means showing up more genuinely and breaking the barriers of we're hugging it out, this might be uncomfortable, and respecting that some people aren't responsive to that.
Yes.
They have their own stuff going on. So I always ask, like,
Absolutely. Of
would
course.
you be willing to share a hug?
Yeah.
Because I'm a hugger too, right? The physicalness, the touch, the breaking down barriers of we must be proper and we need to be professional, to let's be real here. Let's be in relationship with one another, right?
Yeah. I actually said, look at all this body that's attached to this little head that you've seen on the screen. Like, it was just like, who knows what all of this is? We don't know what's there. It was amazing. And I think back to Image, going back, my mom's mom. She always pretended to be happy. My mom was the most responsible in her family and had 3 siblings, that she felt this need to make sure she did everything right to not make her dad mad and angry.
Mhm.
And how, now looking at it in the past, that image that was created in both of those relationships and then carried on to me, and how I look at my daughter, and she is an absolute free bird and just does whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that she doesn't feel some of these
Yeah.
things. My looking at her is very different, I'm sure, than how she's
Yeah, I
seeing
agree.
herself.
I see that with my kids too, right? The
Yeah.
illusion of the projection of what I see or think and feel is sometimes different than what the experience actually is, right? And can we talk
Yeah.
about those things openly without feeling a bunch of shame and blame and all of those things that go along usually when we dig into the vulnerable side of how are you? But how are you really?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yay, here we are doing an off the cuff moment about Image. We're wondering about, how do you feel? What's your thoughts on Image? Did you have an experience in high school or all the way through? Have you come to terms with the fact that you're pretty great, even though you used to maybe think that you weren't so great? And how do we break down these barriers further by being ourselves, by showing up as real and genuine and authentic, is my thought.
Yeah. Amen, sister.
Mhm.
This is Off the Cuff with T and me. Thanks for joining us today. If you like what you're watching, please hit subscribe and you'll be notified when we've got new videos coming out.
See you next time.